welcome to the next lecture, that is the lecture number 30, and that is lecture number 13, in which the topic is the looping statement. In the previous statements or in the previous lecture we have seen the conditional statements, and right now we are going to deal with the looping statements. So, what do you mean by the loop? Now, the loop is like a never ending cycle. When we say the loop means the never ending cycle or running in circle. It is just like when you are running in a circle. So, there is no end, or you can say there is no terminating end where you can skip it. So, ultimately when we are saying we are in a loop, that means we are running in a circle. So, how it is important in Python programming? It is because whenever we want to repeat some codes again and again, this process is known as iteration. That means we want to repeat the codes or we want to iterate the codes, that time we will take the help of loop statements. The next important thing is for the condition. This is very important. That means the repetition will be taking place, but for the condition until it meets the termination, because the termination is also important, because no matter how many times you repeat the operation, the memory for a computer or for a system is finite. Even for a human, the running is also finite. So, until it meets its terminating conditions. In Python we have only two loops. The very first one is while, the second one is for loop. So, we have only the two loops, not do while. So, here we have only two, the one is while loop, the second one is for loop. Next thing is, now look at the example. The example says count, we are going to count the numbers starting from the 1 till the number gets bigger than 6. That means we are going to count the numbers starting from the 1, that means we are going to display the numbers starting from the 1 until and unless it becomes greater than 6. This is the condition where it will terminate. So, the terminating condition is when the number becomes greater than 6. By understand, it means that it is a natural number, it does not mean a decimal number. So, here you can see a little bit a glimpse of the loop statement by using the while and for loop. Now, here the same thing is written, and here you can see the condition is the I is less than equal to 6, but what is happening inside this loop for loop statement, that there is no condition. That means when we are dealing with the for loop, there is no condition at all. Then how it going to work, we will see it, but first we are going to deal with this while loop. Now, look at the output of this program. Here you can see that yes, the output is generating from the 1 to 6, because when the number is greater than 6, that becomes 7, it is violating this condition, and ultimately the loop is exiting or it is exited. Similarly, in the for loop we have only 6 numbers, and after that there is not the 7th number. Now, we are dealing with the very first statement regarding the Python loop, and that is while. So, in while loop what is important? Look at the while loop. The very first important point is it is indefinite, that means no limit. You can run this loop forever. That means if the conditions are met there for the terminating condition, then only it will stop, otherwise it will go for infinite, you can say so infinite. Next one is, now when we are dealing with the while loop, the very first thing is the index variable. Generally in the basic model of the while loop, the important thing is this indexing variable. Now, here in this example, here you can see that we are initializing something. This variable which is we are going to initialize is, it is basically the variable which is making the condition. That is why this indexing variable is very important. because this variable will be responsible for the condition, and until and unless this condition becomes false, we cannot exit the loop or we cannot skip the loop. So, this I is equal to 1 is your indexing variable. The next thing is of course, the keyword is the while, and the last thing is it is repeating a set of statement. That means, in the while loop what we are dealing is we are repeating the number of statements again and again over the condition which will be prevailed by the indexing variable. Why I am saying this indexing variable? Because the condition are regarding with this variable in the operation of our while loop. This is a little bit graphical approach, that first the indexing variable is allowed, after that the condition, the last point is very important. Now, look at this example. The I is equal to 1 and after that the while loop is initiated. So, during this what will happen? The I holds the value 1, the I holds the value 1 and 1 is less than 6, that holds true. That means, this statement will be executed, that means, we are going to print the information of I, it is going to give you 1. Next is this I plus equal to 1 is very important. We have already dealt with this symbol, that is in assignment operators, in that it is written as I is equal to I plus 1. That means, now the I value will be changes from 1 to 2, because if this variable or this statement is not available, now I value become 1. That means, the 1 is less than equal to 6, yes, that is true. Now, after that again the I value becomes 1 only, because there is no statement which changes the values of I. That is why this updating variable is very important. If this statement is directly omitted from this while loop, what will happen is it become indefinite loop. Now, here you can see the output, that when I is less than equal to 6 and 1 is less than equal to 6, it will deliver the output as 1, but with the help of this value what is happening? The I value is changing. Until and unless this condition becomes false, this condition becomes false at this number. So, till 6 it is printed. Similarly, here you can see that the updating variable or the value of the j is updated by the 2. That means, minus 1 plus 2 equals 1. So, here you can see the difference of 2. That means, you can control the flow of the loop with the help of this updating variable or updating statement. Now, this is a little bit flow diagram representation, or you can say the graphical representation of the while loop, that how the while loop works. When we are starting with the while loop, the very first thing in the basic model is we are initializing the index variable, and with the help of this index variable what we are doing is we are making a condition like I is less than equal to 6, here I is equal to 1. If this condition holds true, the execution of the block will take place. Now, in this block of code the updating information must be there, updating, because in the block of code I is equal to I plus 1 is there. So, due to this right now the I value becomes 2 and so on, until and unless the I becomes 7, it exits the loop because of this false condition. Now, look at some examples related to the while loop. Let us look if we are dealing with the string data type, that is here we are dealing with the string, that is river Ganga. So, we have created a variable name as a river Ganga, and right now what we are doing is we are reading one by one and making a condition where we want to stop at G. So, in this river Ganga, here you can see this is the G, That means we are going to run this condition while using this while loop until and unless this condition is false or unsatisfied. Sorry. So, here you can see that the output will be RIVER space GAN, because at G the condition becomes false. So, this is the output of this while loop. Here you can see at G the condition becomes false at where the loop exists. Now, again we are reading the river Ganga, but right now the condition is totally changed. We want to read the string till the end. Now, how we are going to make this condition? With the help of conditional operator or with the help of loop statement? Let us see. I is equal to 0, name is equal to river Ganga. Now, we are going to use a function known as len name. Len name means whatever the number of characters or number of strings with length 1 are. So, here you can see the river holds 5 characters, 5 Ganga, and the space has 1, totally 11. That means, if you are able to make the condition where this loop will go for 11 times, here you can see the output of the len name is 11. That means, this is going to be executed for 11 times, in which every characters are read one by one. Now, what about if we are going to use the manual breaks, or let us say we want forcefully to break out the loop conditions? In that, we are going to use the break statement. In break statement, what is the important point is that you can manually break from inside, but at condition. That means, the breaking of the loop will take place only at a condition, and at that condition it will take with the help of break keyword. Now, look at this example, like the river Ganga, we are running this condition, that means till the end we are running it, and right now what I want is I want to break it at which point? I want to break it at I. When I am saying break means I am going to destroy the loop, or I am going to just manually break the looping process. So, how I am going to exit it? By using the break statement, and it is making the condition that it is at white space. Sorry, this character is a white space, it is not I. So, we are going to mark that our condition is this, the white space. This is known as white space. So, white space is the condition at which we are going to break this loop, and look at the output of the program. The len is reading the 11, that means the all 11 characters will be read one by one, but when this condition is met, it will directly break this whole loop. Due to this, it will stop at R and stop the looping operation. Similarly, here you can see that we have more than one condition for the while, that is while is less than the len, that is the 11, and the name I is should not be equal to n. That means, right now our condition is limited to this one. Why? Because it is connected with the logical operator, and that means both conditions must be true, and it can only be possible till n. After n, this condition, sorry, after a, this condition becomes false. That means, here up to this area the loop will execute, but in that, here you can see again the white space is the manual break. That means, at the river it will terminate itself, and here it is the output. In the output you can see that this condition meets, and it will break the loop at that point. Now, in the next example, here we are going to see that we are starting the river Ganga on the condition that the I must be less than 11. The next condition is, now the condition is little bit changed, that is the condition is, you can see up to V, that means here. Now here in this example what we are seeing is that the very first condition is fulfilling for the 11 characters, but the next condition is only holding for R and I. That means before encountering this break, this condition becomes false. So whenever you want to break the loop, you can perform the conditions either on the while statement or by putting this break statement for the condition. So so the number of the steps in breaking the condition or the breaking a loop requires generally two cases. The very first case is either you can stop the condition here, that is in the comparison of the while statement condition, or you can put the break statement at some condition. Now here you can see that the reach of this loop is only this one, this break is here. So since the loop is only valid for R and I, that means it is only limited to only two characters, that is R and I. Next is the continue statement. In the continue statement, the best part of the continue statement, it skips the execution. That means whatever the code remains below the continue statement, it will directly skip that part, that is the rest of the block code directly in the loop and again divert itself to the condition. Now again when we are dealing with this continue statement, a condition is required and it is just like a manual prevention from inside, because at particular condition if some codes must not be executed, then you can use the continue statement. Here you can see that the I is less than len, that is again we are reading the whole string one by one, but if the condition is this, that is A, now the very first A is after capital G. Now here you can see that the execution of the A will be stopped. Why? Because the continue statement is there. Now instead of executing the print name I, it will directly redirect itself to I is equal to is less than len name. So here what is happening, that the small a is not available because it is skipping at small a. So this is how the continue statement works. Now this point is very important, the care must be taken to update the variable, because if you are not going to update the variable, what is going to happen, that the same variable will compare itself with the given condition again and again. Let us say this condition, now in the previous slide we have the condition A, and if the updating condition is not encountered, that means the value of I cannot be updated. Once the value of I cannot be updated, that means it will got ourselves into the infinite loop system, and at that time now it become infinity. So this care must be taken when we are dealing with either continue statement or the break statement. Next thing is, if I want to print the constraint, because right now the condition is not in AEIU, that means this condition becomes true only when the name I is not in AEIOU, that means they are consonants. So in the output you can see that we are getting so not in AEI, so all the consonants are true, that means right now it is executing this continue statement, and due to this what is happening, that in continue statement the execution of this statement is skipped. So what is left with this one is vowels. The next thing is we are dealing is that the else statement in the loop statement. That means, in the loop statement, if we are going to put the else statement, what is going to happen? Now, let us see that when you are going to put this statement under the else for the loop, it is just a representation of the execution of the sum code after the finishing of the statement. You can see here that this is providing the extra information. This provides the extra information that the looping operation is terminated. That means, right now the control is already out of the loop. Next one is the for loop. The property for the for loop is totally definite. Why the property of the for loop is definite? Because of its working principle. The very first thing is it starts with the keyword for. The second thing is it is not a loop, it is rather a method. It is a more closer towards a method than a looping method, or you can say looping principles. Repeats a set of statements, but there is no explicit condition is required. Why it is happening? Because of this thing, because it is very closer to the method. And one more thing is it always comes in iterator iterable object pair. What is that? We are going to discuss this thing in detail, but before that, look at the example. My list is equal to 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. The number of elements are 6. And look at the syntax. Very first is the keyword for followed by a variable, any variable. No, just like an indexing variable, it is very similar to indexing variable. You need to define an extra variable, but you can see that followed by in, followed by a variable which holds a collection of data. Collection of data is also referred as iterable. That means which holds the number of values, which can give the values one by one. So, here we have the values 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. So, this is the syntax for followed by any variable, that means any. It is just like index variable followed by in. What is in? It is a membership operator followed by the iterable, that is a collection of data. Then you are going to use the block of statement. So, this block of a statement will be executed for finite time. Now, the finite number depends upon this iterable. Now, in this here the 6 elements are there, that means the loop will limit itself to only 6 elements, because these elements are coming from this variable which holds a collection of 6 elements. Now, look at this one, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, again 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. So, whatever the values you hold under the collection, the same values will be fetched by this x. This x or this variable is known as iterator. So, this iterator is holding these 6 variables values one by one or fetching the values one by one. It is just like a boss. So, boss is fetching the properties one by one from the iterable. So, iterator is fetching the values from the iterable. The iterable is a collection of data. So, whenever you have a collection of data, that means that has a designated property of iterable. Now, this is the working principle. The working principle is very close to the method, because here you can see the very first thing is you are defining a iterator by the iter method, that x, whatever the variable you have taken, that variable behaves at a iterator. So, for x in iterable, this is the syntax. Next is a block of code. So, first you are going to designate the iterator, after that the next method will be called on the iterator, so that the next value of the iterable is fetched, and after that what is going to happen, the block of code. Here the true condition means the next method holds next value of iterable. If the next value of the iterable object is not there, that means this will provide you the error. This error is termed as exception. It will directly represent this error as stop iteration. That means right now we are not going to iterate to the next one because there is no more. Now look at this one, when we have the data type set, because this curly brackets are representing the set data type, and when this data type is represented in the for, again the output is represented with the same one. So the list data type, the set data type, here again the tuple data type is taken as iterable. One more property for the iterable is if it is able to perform the iter function. It is a special function which gives a help to the variable or to this x variable to hold the capacity as a iterator for the given iterable. That means my tuple is iterable. So, this is going to create this x. That means my tuple is responsible for creating the x as iterator. It is not iterator which is going to responsible for iterable. So, first thing is that my tuple is forming the x as a iterator, and after that the iterator is performing its role to fetch the values from the iterable. Now, the tuple is also taken as a iterable. That means the dictionary can also be taken as, yes, the dictionary can also be taken as the iterable object. Now, what we are seeing here in the output, this 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, it is key element. So, when we are looking at the dictionary, always the thing is that we are fetching the key element. But can we fetch the values? Yes, by using dot values method in for loop. Here you can see that right now the output is the values related to that my dt or my dictionary. The next thing is you can also take the key element pair, key value pair for iterable. Now, here you can see that 1 with 1, 2 with 2 and 3 with 3, and in the output you can see. So, now how it is possible? By using item method. This method is only specified or specific for dictionary data type. The next thing is when we are iterating for a string. Now, here is river Kaveri and the number of characters are 12. You can see that there is no use of len function, and we are just going to put this for condition simply, and directly we are writing just print x. Now, you can see that how it is very easy to put the for loop in such type of conditions where you do not need to use the len functions, you just need to use the x followed by the iterable object, and that is it to print the block of the code. Now, here you can see the whole Kaveri river is executed one by one and without any error. That means there is no error, there is no conditions, because there is no such conditions where we are going to stop it, but because it is predefined on the basis of number of elements inside the iterable object. Now, look at this one. Now, what do you mean by this? Yes, this is byte. So, bytes are also considered an iterable objects, and the output of the iterable objects can be seen very easily by using for loop. Next is, you can see the range x is again it is a function which provides you a iterable object, and this object is known as range object. So, this range is also providing you an object, but it is starting the default information to start the range is 0, it is default till n minus 1, till n minus 1. So, the n minus 1 means 10 minus 1, that means 9, it is executed from 0 to 9. One more thing, now if we are going to put this 10, that 10 is integer, is it iterable or not? This is the question. This integer is a iterable or not? The answer is obviously it resulted into the type error, not iterable. Next is again the break statement, and how we are going to apply the break statement. Now, look at this in the for loop, and it is very easy. Now, here there is no further conditions, because this for loop is a definite one, that means finite, you can say it is a finite, and due to this what is happening, that this whole operation is a finite. If you want to break this loop at a particular condition, you can use the conditional statement followed by this break statement. You can see the output, it is ref, that means at this e, this is here. So, these 3 characters are in the output, that is RIV. Now, similarly for the continuous statement, here you can see that if you want to skip this e, that means the output for this one will be skipped. Let us check out the output. Yes, here this e is missing. Missing is not an appropriate word, rather you put it like this, skipped. By whom? It is by continuous statement here. Now, again you can see the example, if we are going to provide more general information like x in AEIOU, that means what are these? These are vowels. So, if you are going to skip all the vowels, it can also be done by you. So, here you can see that the condition of AEIOU can directly be skipped from the river Ganga, and in the output you can see there are no vowels. And due to this what is happening is only the consonants are remained. With this I will stop my lecture here. So, we have looked inside the looping statements in the Python, in which we have 2 loops, one is while loop, the second one is for loop. Thank you for listening.